רבותיי, אני מקווה ששלומכם בטוב בימים אלה. סימן שלא מאמינים להם כאשר הם חוזרים. ולכן מה שאמר הרמב"ן עם העד הראשון, אז יש פה אופטימיזציה הלכתית. תימותאוס, מה שלומך?
ברוך השם, מצוין.
טוב לראות אותך.
מה שלומך?
ברוך השם. יש אורות מאחוריי, אז לכן שמתי את התמונה ברקע, כי אחרת האורות מסנוורים. אתה מכיר את התמונה הזאת?
זה נראה, אז בעצם אני לא יודע פרטים על זה, אבל זה נראה לי מוכר, כן.
כן, זה מגרמניה, מאזור לייפציג, וזה דבר ככה, אני חושב, כל כך מעניין. הוא אדם רזה כזה, מראה לו, הנה אתה לא צודק. אתה רואה, זה ככה, זה מאוד יהודי הדבר הזה. אלכסנדר, מה
שלום שלום, ערב טוב.
You see, I have the pleasure of having Timotheus here. Axel.
Shalom, shalom, Timotheus.
Good, so good to see you. How is it going? You don't vaccinate yourselves. What's happening with you?
Patience. Saflanut, we just wait some months or years. Let's see.
Or 10 years, yes.
I read the statistics that if we have the same speed with the vaccination, the last one will be vaccinated in 2030 something. So.
But compared to our Berlin International Airport, I think we are making good progress, Axel.
No, the question is, we said we'll give Katya an answer. This is the thing. And I hesitate what to tell you. As far as Israel is planning, April is the end of all the limitations. Israel opened its airports and borders and everything in April. So the question is whether we should tell Katya that we go.
That's the very, very good question, Rav Shabtai. As we are really, really slow. We are really slow. So I think our students won't be vaccinated until July. No chance.
No?
It's getting worse. In the beginning, they said until June, everyone will
good.
Vaccinated. But now we have September. So and this was before the last bad news concerning the amount of the.
No, it has nothing to do. When you vaccinate, you vaccinate.
But you need enough doses. So we don't have enough.
I see. So no Nesamim this year, unless we make it later, to celebrate the end of the corona in Germany.
Unless I already thought of very good ideas, unless you help us with our vaccination program, come over and help us and bring some of the doses with you, or invite us to a special vaccination holiday in Israel or something like that. I'm ready to come anytime. No problem.
This is something that, no, I don't know. The airports will be open. You could come in. The question is, we can hurt you, you cannot hurt us. This is the idea. This is the problem. You can hurt each other.
But so we could go for 2 weeks in quarantine in Nesamim and do our biblical reading there. No problem.
And afterwards, after we return to Germany, we have another 2 weeks of quarantine again. So this will be.
It's getting complicated. I'm not so sure. Maybe
because it is so nice there. It's such a pity.
Yes, I'm less afraid of the quarantine in Nesamim than the quarantine here in Germany afterwards. So,
but do you think, Axel, why should we go in quarantine in Germany? Israel will be the only safe place in the world.
Yes, there is no reason. Even America now, Biden, that is crazily, he went to the other side. So when you vaccinate yourself, all you have to show is a test that you don't have corona. You don't need quarantine. It makes no sense. Why should you have quarantine? Either you have corona or not, because you are vaccinated. You're not supposed to get it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll still think or we'll decide no?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I'm not really willing to cancel the Nesamim trip now. I'm not really willing, but I'm reluctant at the same time to say, yes, we can. So maybe we need a wise decision by our rabbi.
The rabbi would have said yes. We should go in. As you said, if the worst come to worst, there'll be quarantine conditions, because the people that come from Germany, only from Germany, right?
Right.
So it'll be in Germany, they will be only there, and the rest will be Israelis that are vaccinated.
So maybe you talk with Katya. Katya got her vaccination actually yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago. She was running around all over the country to find some mobile vaccination team. And whenever Katya wants something, she gets it. So she got her vaccination.
Once Katya gets.
Okay, so I'll discuss it with Katya.
Yeah, and I'm ready to come anytime, no problem. Yeah, maybe let's say hello to Kerstin, who is new today.
Hi.
She has not been with us so far. Kerstin, maybe you want to say 2 or 3 sentences who you are?
After you said you would introduce myself, this is a bit of a surprise. Well, I'm honored to be here tonight. I've been working for Alexander since March last year in a project that's concerned with church spaces and their sacredness and the way they are used in the future. And I do have some experience with Jewish Christian Bible reading. I'm part of the team of the Jewish Christian Bible Week in Haus Orbeck in Osnabrück since 2008, I think. So I've been reading Bible with Jewish people for quite some years in the summer.
So you have 9 years on us. Yeah, you have, yes. We are babies next to Kirsten.
We are. No, and I thought it's a really good idea to invite her to see what's happening here. And I don't know, Kerstin, whom you know of these wonderful people here. You might see Rav Shabtai, who has a new background.
Yes.
Rav Shabtai,
I have lights on my back that people complain about.
okay.
So I hid it.
Okay, that's great.
Anyway, it's a painting that comes from Saxony. So you feel at home. Yes.
That's great. So that's Rav Shabtai, who is our mentor and our head and leading and guiding us through many things. You see Tuvia Perry, who is maybe one of the most brilliant psychologists all over the world. And no, really, he's a great person and a wonderful psychologist and helping us with
this. I'm coming every time again, just to hear this word.
Just to hear. No, Tuvia, I protest. What is it? One of the most brilliant. It's meaningless.
Absolutely.
Either he's the most brilliant or not.
And then I have Hilda Nisimi, who is one of the most brilliant historical scholars of history at Bar Ilan University, also doing really a lot in international relationships and in bringing people together. We have this wonderful network with Duke University and Bar Ilan University and have been together quite a lot. That's fantastic to have Hilda here. And we have Rolly here, who is absolutely important, sitting also in a very, very nice environment today, Rolly. Rolly is a really brilliant thinker, great philosopher, and for many years now, something like the assistant of Rav Shabtai, and many much more. And the rest of the people is actually from Germany or even from Leipzig. You know Scholt Baller, hopefully, he was our rabbi here in Leipzig. You might know Timotheus, for sure you know him. Actually, where are you sitting, Timotheus? That looks great somehow.
Are you around? This is a desk of mine.
You're
Just the
studying.
window to the south, the window to the east, and that's back of one of the bookshelves.
Yeah,
The wood you see, it's the back of.
I see that. That's great. Yeah, and with
Yeah.
all those technique and cables and okay.
Yeah.
And then we have Annika, who is already for many years with us actually, and it's great to have Annika with us, and Axel, who is somehow the co-organizer of our team. He is. Do you know Axel Töllner from Neuendettelsau or from Nuremberg? The theological, how would you call yourself? The theological.
I'm the representative for the Jewish-Christian dialogue in the Lutheran Church of Bavaria, and
Okay.
the director of a little institute at Augustana Hochschule for Jewish-Christian relations and studies.
Yeah, so this is who we are. Will there be more people?
And we have a
accepted?
member in absentia. It's Abdullah.
And Abdullah won't be able to join us today. Abdullah is actually from Duke University. That is quite funny because we had a guest from Duke this afternoon in our session. So Corona is terrible, but Corona makes a lot possible at the same time, as we have the idea of just being together all around the globe in different sessions. And that's great somehow. Rav Shabtai, do you think we should start with our John
Definitely.
reading? Okay.
Sure. Everyone should use his own copy, or you would like to share a screen.
Which copy?
Rolly sent. Timotheus sent
sent-
us with Hebrew. Excellent
Right.
Hebrew translation of this chapter. Rolly just sent it an hour ago.
Sent two English translations, Rav Shabtai.
What?
He sent two English translations. Which one?
I think we take the New American Bible, Hilda. It's
in English.
Okay.
the English one. I would take the New American Bible, which
Okay.
is a bit easier, and the text is okay, I think.
Okay.
But we can use the Hebrew also. It's really excellent.
And the Delitzsch translation is really very good. Yeah.
Very good, right. Yes.
And
Thank you,
see,
Timotheus. That was very, very beautiful.
Alexander, do you mean the New Revised Standard Version, or what kind of?
I sent two links. One of them is to the King James, and one of them is to the New American. I'm putting it up in the chat now.
Ah, great.
and I would suggest, Axel, the New American Bible. Then we don't
Which
have
one
these.
is Delitzsch? The Y or the F?
It's in the chat right now.
What is it? Is it the American?
No, I'm asking about the Hebrew. Which one is the Delitzsch? The Y or the F?
The latest is, who knows? Look at it. It's not like an old Bible. It looks more modern.
Delitzsch,
Yeah. Now I see it. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Delitzsch is the F.
Yes. I see it.
So tell me, the New American Bible. I see.
You have it, Rav Shabtai?
Yes, I have it on the chat. Rolly just sent a link on the chat.
And Rav Shabtai, should I have the honor of moderating tonight?
Only you, yes. Actually, Abdullah should have done it. That's what he wanted, to moderate on. He was so happy about you moderating something that you have no idea about. So he said, I'll do the same.
And that would have been a great chance. Kerstin, you don't know that, but in the last sessions, I had to moderate Quran reading. And I have, of course, no idea about the Quran. So that was really quite funny.
But it was
I think
wonderful.
We got some very nice reading of the Quran. Actually, I thought a lot about what we should do with this text today. And I won't do a classical bibliologue, Rav Shabtai, but I want you to do something a bit similar. My idea is that we read the whole text, first of all.
Are you really?
And then jump into different perspectives and read some of the verses again with some different angles and perspectives in this text. And let's hear what we see, what we discover. For me, as you know, I had to preach on this text about 2 weeks ago, but it is still a very, very open and mysterious text in many, many ways. So let's see how you read it and what we discover together. I don't know, Annika, you are not prepared now, but would you maybe read the whole text once for us, the verses 1 to 11?
Okay.
And I always forget my lessons after 2 weeks, and I'm sure you also, so you can approach it with naive eyes, you know, that's...
Absolutely, absolutely. Annika, thank you.
Okay. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. When the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine without knowing where it came from, although the servers who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then, when people have drunk freely, an inferior one. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this at the beginning of his signs in Cana in Galilee, and so revealed his glory, and his disciples began to believe in him.
Thank you very much, Annika, for reading these verses. I don't want to tell you anything about Christian interpretation through the centuries, nothing about where the context exactly is, nothing about Cana in Galilee, which you all might know, or even have bought some wine there, as we can do to this very day, and no one really knows where it is. But that's not important. We really jump on the text level and see what the text tells us and what we discover in the text. And my idea is, first of all, that we jump into 4 different perspectives and try to see how the text looks like when we approach it from different angles, perspectives of people mentioned in the text. And my first perspective would be, imagine you are the servers, the servers serving the wine for the wedding in Galilee. And maybe we read from verse, I think that's 4. His mother said to the servers, we read again here until verse 9, and just think about what the perspective of the servers might be. What do they think? What do they feel? What do they discover? Annika, could you do that again? Don't want to bother you too much. From his mother said to the servers.
His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, "Fill the jars with water," so they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servers who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom.
Thank you very much. I think that's enough.
Bridegroom.
Bridegroom, yeah. I think that's enough for the moment. When you get into the perspective of these servers, what does the text tell you? What do you discover? What do you see? What do you feel in this role, approaching the text from this perspective? Don't be afraid, in a short time, we will also see other perspectives in the text and then jump on a meta level as well. But when we first of all go into these servers, we don't know so much about them. What is your impression, your feeling when you read this story? What strikes you?
They must have been in some way known to Jesus's disciples. because they were doing what his mother was telling them to do, which they would not have been expected to do, because she is not the lady of the house, and she is not the hostess. And yet they do exactly what they're told, even if it sounds unusual. And they also don't seem to be over excited about the water turning into wine, because the text doesn't say so. It just says they did know.
Uh-huh.
It's
Thank you
almost
very much.
as though the entire story is for them.
Thank you very much, because it's really, I think that's a strange role in the text. Why should they do what the mother of Jesus tells them to do? Why should they do what Jesus tells them to do? After all, and only so much for the context, there is not so much known about Jesus so far. He has 4 disciples so far, according to the Gospel of John. That's not too much. He is not a really famous person. We don't know the mother of Jesus, in which relation she is actually. So thank you very much, Hilda. I think these were many, many interesting aspects. Anything to add or to comment? Rav Shabtai?
Even if Jesus is very, very famous and extremely respected, why should he be responsible for the wine? If there's no wine, okay, let them bring wine. It's not a job of a person. I know he was not a wine merchant. He doesn't have a wine store. So his mother tells him, it's like a mother tells, usually it's not to her son, to her son-in-law, how come there is no wine, go do something. It's very, mother to boy speech. But these first verses are very, very strange. He was at the wedding. Jesus himself were invited to the wedding. He's a guest, and he's a rabbi. He's a very important person. And then his mother tells him, where is the wine? What do I have to do with the wine?
But it sounds as though he knows exactly what she's talking about. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and she understands even what he doesn't say. Because he says, if my hour isn't come, and yet she knows that the water is going to turn into water or something like that, because that's why she tells the servers, do what he's telling you, because something is going to happen here. She's maybe not sure what. So the mother and the son know exactly what they're talking about, even when they're not talking it. What I was actually extremely surprised by was the way he answers her, the way he calls her woman. And forgive the cynicism, but he wouldn't have talked to his father that way. So it reminded me in a way of the story of Muhammad that we were having with the women, about that they were saying that the way that there was this mix up between woman and mother. He should say mother to her. I mean, right? I mean, mother.
I actually find it interesting right after this that she doesn't have to answer him. There's no argument here. She says something, she hints at something, and then he answers her, and it seems like he's being maybe aloof, maybe a little too crass, but then right afterwards, she turns to the servants and she says, okay, do what he says. And then she doesn't need to tell him anything more. And even though he doesn't want to, and more than doesn't want to, he says, this is not the proper time. It's not my time to start. And then it seems that the one to decide whether it's his time to start his appearance is not him, it's his mother. And so there's this kind of dynamic that's by what's not being said, we're being told a lot.
Yeah, that's what I meant before. I mean, she understands even what he doesn't answer her. She knows that something is coming.
That's wonderful. You just left what the moderator tried to do to leave you with the servers alone. But it's completely okay, because the beginning of the text is really fascinating and quite odd. So let's continue here a little bit. What happens here between mother son, and what is there an expectation of the mother really? Do they understand one another much better without saying a word? Why isn't there any argument? Actually, I think it's right. Jesus actually does exactly what his mother wanted him to do. But why does he refuse on the level of argument, of speech? That's a good question here, I think.
Don't we always do that to our parents?
I will speak.
Don't we always do that to our parents? We first say no, and then we do exactly what they tell us.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
But usually I would have expected that his mother would react to his harsh answers. So this is something. If I were the son and it was my mother, she would certainly have replied, and she would have been hurt and would express how dare you or whatever, but she is.
But what did she want from him? If it was your mother, what would she want from you?
Well, this is an interesting point, because my mother, it could have been my mother, because she always takes care of everything, apart from whether she's responsible or not. Well, this could have been a familiar situation to me, but well, I don't really understand why she, as you said before, why she called her son. He's a guest, and he's not responsible for food and wine and whatever. So this is.
But Axel, talking about the pragmatics of language, I think that's a good way of giving an imperative without using an imperative, right? Just to give a description. Yeah. When you enter a room to visit someone and you say, well, it's quite cold in here, then the other person might close the window or open the heating or whatever, but you don't have to say, could you please open the heating or whatever. So I think that's kind of a very indirect imperative, which is quite clever somehow.
You do imperative, indirect imperative, if you speak to the person who could do something. So you say it's a bit cold, you don't want to order him, go and do. But here it's terrible. There is no wine, so what?
There's another thing that I thought was curious to me, and that's what I meant at first. The context, and I'm not too familiar with the Bible, so I'm not trying to sneak in another information. I'm speaking just about the text that we have before us, and the text before us says that this is within the context of Jesus appearing, of becoming known, right? About making his wonderful deeds. So, but in the end, it's only the servers who knew. There was no one else. It's only the servers. I'm not even sure that the disciples knew anything. It's the mother and the servers. That's it. Nobody else. So the whole tararam, you would say in Hebrew, the whole thing was just for the servers. And I'm not even sure how many there were. Maybe there were only 2. I don't know. Because servers in the plural would be 2. Was that the idea? I mean, just for 2 people? Was it worth the trouble?
I think that's really an amazing observation. Really an amazing observation. As it's the first sign of Jesus, verse 11, the first sign of Jesus. And in the end, it's a sign which is just for the servers, maybe for the disciples. We don't know really. I think they are with Jesus, so they might see something. But it's amazing, yeah. Tuvia, did you want to say something? I admit that
I thought about it. It's a
yeah?
situation. It's a situation of a Jewish mother. she knows she has a special gifted child. She wants him to show it, to present himself. He says it's not my time yet, but she tells him, look, now that's your moment. You can do it, right? So make a miracle here. That's the time for you to reveal yourself.
Very good. So what Tuvia implies is that she tells him, why did you come to the wedding? You came to the wedding to show the people who you are, because weddings were very big. This is the problem now, that weddings are big occasions with many people. All the people of the village of Cana were there. And you see, it's not gallons, but let's say, he had to supply them with a big amount of wine. So it means there were many people. And if they will all be under the table when they finish, it won't be effective. So it was really a big crowd. So she tells him, why did you come here? To show who you are. So there is no wine, and maybe here you have the chance. What can you do that will be a proper thing to do? Here there is no wine. Go and show yourself with the wine. And all Jesus' signs, I think, were to supply people needs. In this is very much like Elisha. His miracles are not usually not to show big miracles of fire and pyrotechnics and all this, but simply when people need something, he supplies it in a miracle way. And also it's very much like Elisha that he doesn't produce the wine from nothing. He fills bottles with water. It reminds me very much of the Elisha story. You have vessels, fill them with, you'll put oil into them and they will be filled with oil. Here you put water and the water becomes wine.
In a way, Jesus did what he wanted, but he also did what his mother wanted. He did not want to appear yet. If he wanted to appear, then the entire village would have known that the water has turned into wine, but they don't. His mother wanted him to appear, so to start doing his miracles or his signs, or to show that he is not a normal person. And he did that as well, because the servers now know that. And it is interesting that they are the servers, which means not the important people. It's not the leaders. It's not the bridegroom. It's not the main person that is leading the entire event. It's just the little people. Not very. It's not going to appear on the news in the evening.
And also, what was the nature of the miracle here? There is a much later story, Nachman of Breslov, we discussed him several times. And he talks about someone who was such a great believer, the image of the great person of faith, that when he drank water, he tasted in the water any taste that he wished, any wine that he wanted. He was acquainted with wine, and whenever he tasted water, he could taste this excellent wine that he wanted. And I wonder if the point here is not the creation of the wine from water, it's sort of alchemy, it's why should the self-respecting person should do alchemy? It's more changing the consciousness of the people, that he gives them water and they drink water. But when they taste the water near Jesus, it tastes like wine. They are convinced that it's wine. And I think this is a worthy miracle, because if he wants to show himself, so he says, you think it's water, it's really not water, it's wine. All you need is to have the right mindset.
But it says that the water had become wine.
Become wine in people's mind. It's all subjective. What's the difference? Wine is about 86% water.
But it doesn't say he tasted wine. He tasted the water that had become wine, not that it tasted wine. It actually became wine.
And in their consciousness, in their consciousness, they have no chance to know that it might be wine, right? They see water, smell water.
No, that's it. if you touch people's consciousness, and so you can see that actually you don't need to drink wine in order to drink wine. It's like the manna in the desert, that you don't have to eat something, you don't need to eat. It says, it's a matter of the translation, but it was either honey or fat, but it was not. It was just something else. But what you wanted to taste, you tasted. It affects your mind. So maybe this was this explanation that my hour has not yet come. Doing alchemy miracles it means nothing. It's a sort of a power that sorcerers had, that witches had. So what? So he can be a good sorcerer. The thing is that he let people drink water, and they will be so in such a mindset, so elated, so happy, so ready to accept everything, that they'll taste it and they say, wow, that's a wonderful wine. This is actually I told you, in Reb Nachman Breslov's story, that's the story. That's the point of the story.
I must. This is a very beautiful description, but I don't think it fits with the story. It's a beautiful Reb Nachman story, but I don't think it's this story.
Maybe.
This story is very explicit in at least the 4 versions that we have here, and we're not going to go into, synoptic, whatever. They are all very explicit about the ontology, about the existence of actual wine in the mouth of the master of ceremonies.
You really think it makes a difference in these times, in the times of Jesus,
that's my point.
Difference?
That's my point. That for whoever is telling us the story, it's important to actually make the point that this is actual wine. It's important for them to insist on it.
Yes, because you have to insist. It's not a trick. I'm not talking about tricks of people, of magicians that cut the girl to 3 pieces. I'm talking about something very deep and very real in people's thought that changes the people.
No, I'm saying that I think that there's an insistence here that it's not in the psyche, however deep you want to go in the psyche, or in perception, or wherever. Okay. And the fact that it's not in the psyche, the fact that the story insists on this being actual reality, is part of the story. Why would it matter? Like the same way that we had in the Quran about the insistence about the literal correctness about what the woman is and who she is, right? So here there's this insistence, and for me, it's interesting because I would just as easily go with you and say, well, it's an actually more impressive feat to change the minds of people, right? It's not just such a big deal to change reality. We've seen reality being changed time and again. It's actually not the hugest deal, right? It's easier to change reality than it is to change people's minds. And we see this all around us. But the fact that there's this kind of emphasis on the reality here tells me something. I don't know what it tells me, but because I tend to read it like you, then I think that there's this point here.
So okay, just one more sentence, and that's it. I'll rest my case. If you go to verse 9, so it says, without knowing where it came from, because if they held Jesus in the way that they held holy people of old or new, if he tells them it's wine, they'll drink it and say it's wine. You know the emperor clothes story. So if the emperor says that he's clothed, people will believe that he has clothes. But the wonderful thing was that he tasted what the water became wine without knowing where it came from. So if I am right, and despite what Oli says, I'm right, so even without knowing where it came from, the mind changed. The very presence of Jesus changed people's mind. But that's it. That's all I have to say. If you want to read the story as kol hakavod,
Might I ask you one more question? And then I saw Kerstin and Tuvia as well. Just one more question, Rav Shabtai. Does it make any difference for you that they put the water in these ceremonial washing jars? So that's really strange. When you have wine, you might have special vessels or something like that for that. Do you read anything or see anything in that, in your interpretation, that it's the Jewish ceremonial washing, that it's Jewish law, which
Yes.
Jesus uses somehow in order to show something?
In my opinion, yes. I'll ask Tuvia what psychologically, what the hand washing means. And I'm sure he has tons of saying about the hand washing and all kinds of psychological problems. But for me, it was very, very strict water thing. If jars for Jewish ceremonial washing, netilat yadayim, that people do before they touch anything that can become unclean, tameh, so it's obviously water. And they were stone water jars because a stone cannot become unclean. So it's a very, very specific thing that you use in order to keep water ritually clean, ritually tahor. And these were 6 stone water jars that are made for water. And it says, what do you expect to have there? You expect to have water. And when you taste it, it's wine. This really, I think it's a very deep mind change. But the thing is, it's very obviously water, nothing else.
Thank you very much. Now I have Kerstin and then Tuvia and then Hilda.
It's very well, because what's striking to me is that people don't get confused about water and wine. They're confused because it's very good wine in the end. That's what's strange to them. So they don't wonder why there's wine in these water jars. They wonder why this Gastgeber, the person who invited, serves the best wine in the end, which seems stupid. So I think that makes it even more complicated. Listening to your discussion about do the people change their mind? Is the mind of the people changed, or the material? Because this is a sign that's completely unclear. It doesn't really reveal.
It does, because if with the presence of Jesus, they say this is the best wine and not the wine that they had before, it's a tremendous message that his presence influenced them to see reality in different way. That's my opinion. That's why it became the best wine afterwards.
Can I pose a question along the same line?
I don't know, because we had Tuvia and Hilda also waiting to say something, and Axel as well. Ronnie, might you wait for a minute? Tuvia.
I think the way I read it, we are observers from outside. We see all the scene from all the perspectives, but the participants have only a partial view of what is happening, and it's somewhat different. So in a way, it's the way Jesus reveals himself here is quite an ambivalent way, because it's not his time yet, because he sends the servers to bring to fill water. They serve what was it was water in their eyes. People who taste it see it's wine. I'm not sure that the servers know about it. Then is this headmaster there that says something for the groom, which again is surprised because he didn't prepare any wine. So where does this wine come from? So each participant doesn't see the full picture. It's kind of
right.
an enigmatic picture that Jesus is not revealing himself clear. You know, he doesn't stand on the stage taking a wand and saying a few words and changing the water into wine. It happens in a hidden way, such that there are questions around what's happening here, but nobody sees all the picture. We, the readers, know that Jesus sent people and then to fill water and it became wine and everything, and now he reveals himself. That's his first nest that he's creating. But for the participants there, it's an enigmatic situation. They don't understand exactly what's happening. So it's a partial revelation. It's not a full-blown appearance with all his power. So it's a bit confusing.
So we are really, as the readers, the only ones who get some kind of the whole picture, but not really.
I'm in the middle of a shear.
What did you say?
I'm in the middle of a shear now. On Zoom.
Oh, sorry.
No. I just wanted to pick up.
Oh, we hear.
Yeah,
we hear
just tell me very quick. Everything okay?
You're gonna have to mute him.
Okay, I'm working on this.
Who's the host? Rolly, you are the host.
No, Apta, you're gonna have to mute him.
You are the host.
Thank you so much.
How am I the host?
I am the co-host even.
You're the co-host is more
No,
important than the host.
Shabtai, this is your meeting room. It's not my meeting room.
No, it's Alexander is their host.
I'm the co-host. That's perfect. Thank you very much. So somehow we are the only ones who get more than just little pieces of the picture. And the question is what we do with this. That's the point here, literally. Yeah, right. Hilda, Axel, and then Rolly with his next question, and I would have something to ask as well. So Hilda.
Well, I thought that actually both Rav Shabtai and Rolly had a point, because even if and I actually agree with Rolly that the text means water that turned into actual wine, but why wine? And it could have turned into oil. Speaking of Elisha, right? It could have turned into anything. It turned into wine because wine is intoxicating. Wine brings one level up. So, and there is also, you asked about the water and cleanliness, but wine is both water and wine are brought to the Mizbeach, right? So both of them are part of something that is holy. They're part of ritual. So there is this thing about wine. Then there is another thing that I was also reminded about Elisha when I was reading it, but it was also reminding me in a different way of the miracle. We are just reading it about Egypt, about the water turning into blood, which is another option for water to turn into. But that's not what it turned into. It turned into water, so into wine. So one of the things when I was thinking in the Christian vein, I would have thought that here it is. This is the vessel, what the vessel had before I came, and it was mere water, and I can turn it into something higher, that is much more impressive, that brings a much higher sense of consciousness in that sense. So I thought that the play between water and wine wasn't just about what I can taste.
Would you go as far, Hilda, as to say that there might be even some, let's say, anti-Jewish polemic in this text? The Jews have in their ceremonial washing, they use the water, and now Jesus comes and he turns it into wine, which is the symbol of eschatological festivity and whatsoever. In your reading or in that line, that could very well be, right?
That's what I thought. And being John, that might make sense. But I wasn't even thinking as deeply as that. I was thinking on a lower level of just Christianity versus Judaism, not going as far as being anti-Jewish, just as being supplanting it, as coming after it, as making it into something better, into something more elated, more substantial.
So in the presence of Jesus, there is some kind of transformation, at least, of this water and this special water into something more. Yeah. Okay. Axel?
Well, I wanted to follow a similar line than as Tuvia did. So I will focus on the technique that the story is told. It's very interesting, I think. We have the personal is shifting all the time, and so do the places. So it's as you said, no one sees the whole picture. People are in different rooms, and Jesus's mother doesn't know the end of the story. She just said there is no wine, and she commanded the servers to do whatever he wanted from them. Then the servers do what they were commanded to, and then they go into another room where the head waiter is, who doesn't know at all that the wine he tastes was used to be water. So he doesn't know the story, all what was happening before. He just, the servers came into the room and brought him the jars, and he tastes and said everything is fine, wonderful, even more than that. So this is really what was striking me. But Hilda went even a step forward. So it's just I just jumped back again. So excuse me for that.
But you know, Axel, what is really nice in your reading the story, especially when you talk about the guests of the wedding or those who taste and don't know. So let me just say a very theological sentence. It might be that you sometimes taste a real miracle and don't even know about it. So it's a real miracle. It's not just something, but you don't know it. And that may be quite gracious, that our life might be full of miracles and we don't even realize it. We just wonder a little bit, well, the quality of the wine, that's striking, because it's against any logics of economy, what the bridegroom does here, but we don't really know that. Yeah.
The thing is, I think it depends. It's very interesting. I think that I had my idea because who I am. I would not be drawn to miracles, to change of nature. What does it mean? It means nothing. It means that you know more chemistry than I do, or that you can do tricks that I am not aware of. So what? So he's a good trickster, or as I said, good alchemist. And me personally, the person that I will be attracted to is a person that can change my mind, change my outlook. When I taste water from a washing job, actually, it's not just for information. You wash your hands before you eat, So the jugs were empty. They were not. He didn't replace the water with wine, but. Could be, it's, if you want to see a motif there, I think that the washing your hands separates you. You wash your hand and you are not in the world. This is the meaning of washing your hand. You're alone. Now you wash your hand and you are holy, you approach holiness. And what he did was something to spread, to change other people around him, and even without them knowing it. So as far as my impression goes, because what you say, we are full of miracles and we don't know about them. So what does it mean? So it means the nature and miracle are the same thing, really. So if you don't believe in God, you don't. If you do, you do, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't change. Miracle cannot change someone's faith. Someone's faith can change only if something changes the experience, what you write about the experience. So a real miracle that encourages faith is a miracle of experience, not a miracle of trickery.
But Rav Shapta, I really love your interpretation. I've really just one problem. Then Jesus should have preached. He should have said something in order to transform people's minds, or at least he should have been with the people, really, those guests there, and telling them something, because then it wouldn't be the sign, the material thing, but it would be really the words and the change of consciousness. But Jesus doesn't say anything. He just tells those people there, fill the jars again, and that's the only word we have. So that's really strange.
Had it been a Jewish story, so the very presence of an illuminating personality would change people's mind. Words, we should do away with sermons. We decided that among us for a long time. Sermons are just for the ego of the person who preaches, and people don't get anything from it. It should be the experience.
Okay, now I don't want to fight for homiletics and sermons now, but I do that later. I have Annika. Annika wanted to say something, and Rolly, we somehow forgot you with
And
your...
Hilda also.
And Hilda, okay. Annika.
Yeah, I more wanted to share a feeling than really having a clear point with it. I think we should be careful that we don't over theologicalize this text, because the words in this text we are reading that are connected to wine, it's about a celebration, it's about a wedding, it's about drunkenness, it's about good taste. It's very earthly. There is no preaching. It's about aesthetics, it's about taste, it's about partying, it's about getting drunk. So this is so interesting, and I think we miss the point if we are too fast in going to some eschatological, whatever the English word is, direction, because this is something that always amazed me about this story, that God does this kind of miracle. And even with your interpretation, Rav Shabtai, it's too
physical.
I think here
You mean it's
actually,
too physical?
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
And then,
Jesus gives them a really good time.
You see, Alexander, so she thinks like you, that doing a miracle is give them good homiletical points. This is...
No, I think Annika wants to drive me away from my homiletical point, really, because I agree, Annika. That's one of the striking things here, and that is why I don't want to bring in too many information, but why theologians over the centuries did really not like the story. They really disliked it. Many Christians over the centuries, because it's too material. It's just about a party. It's Jesus helping people to get drunk. What kind of a miracle is that? What kind of a story is that? I'm grateful that Annika points us to this point. It's very worldly, earthly celebration, and we have to accept this, that it's in the text, and not jumping on the eschatological, theological, whatever level too fast. You're right, yeah.
Right, because he did not speak. That's why it worked. Exactly. Exactly.
I admit it's part of my problem with the story. I admit it could have been easier. But Rolly, I think it was 15 minutes ago that you wanted to say something. I'm really sorry that you had no chance so far.
You mentioned something about, I started out wanting to ask about the specific use of these jugs of water in particular. Then you did relate to that, and you did allude to it might be as for the author, as the message being might be some kind of a critical message about the Jewish ceremony here, but it also might go the other way. It also might mean that you could that this action by this first sign, right, first of seven, right, is taking place on purpose on ceremonially clean water. So the interpretation of it can go either way, but then as I thought more about the use of these waters, it started also these jugs in particular, the big ones, right? It started connecting for me also with what was said while I was waiting my turn, and it started connecting with the question of why is it that why is it that this is not a speech? I mean, why is the first sign, like you said, why is the first sign not something more along the lines of the Sermon on the Mount or something like that? Why is the first sign something so down to earth, partying? And then I started going through the next section of the story, but that's already, it's not cheating, but it's because I started thinking of it in terms of the larger picture, right? Because the next section, Nicodemus is going to ask him, he's going to try to challenge him to say things that are very, very abstract. And then he's going to say, no, I'm dealing with things that are right down here. And then to get to the point where in John 7, he's going to say, all those who want the wellspring of living water, come to me, something like that. I am the one who will fulfill that. That's the point where we were expecting him to be here. Like we're demanding things of him, right? So we're demanding of him, do that over here. But it's like there's a development of the story. The story starts with him doing things that are very down to earth. And eventually it will evolve into something that's, I am the one that was spoken of. He doesn't start off by saying, I was the one who was spoken of. He starts off by being, like Rav Shabtai is saying, by being, his presence is influential. His presence is something that changes reality around him, either physical reality or people's realities. But then that is the first step towards him becoming the leader. But he doesn't step right out and say, okay, so this is the plan. He doesn't do it like that, right? So I started off having a question, but it morphed into a different kind of reading. But okay.
And really into a reading of almost the whole plan of the Gospel of John. That's amazing. Just let us have a short look backwards, because it's really interesting when you start with chapter 1, and I think you all might know this, that this huge hymn of praise that the word of God became flesh and the glory of God was revealed. And it's really quite shocking in this sense to read that the first thing that the word that became flesh did on this earth was to celebrate a wedding with his mother. That's quite a paradox, actually. You have this huge word, we are in heaven and so on, and now the light is on the earth. And then you have the story of the wedding with all what Annika mentioned, with all what you mentioned now. That's really quite a paradox. And now in your eyes and in your line of reading, I realized that again. Yeah.
No, I think that's the first time, not here, not in this text, but really he's called the Son of Man. And at least in the good translation, he's the Son of Man. And am I wrong, Alexander?
So not in this text, that's for sure.
No.
I'm not so sure now. I'm not so sure. Sorry. What would your interpretation be of that?
Exactly that. The Son of Man, not the Son of God. He's the Son of Man, meaning that he's totally to be lofty and to say wonderful phrases and to have high theology. This I can do in 2 minutes. To make people happy, really happy, and to change their minds. This I could never do that. Right? It's very easy to preach and talk about high theology.
Annika and Hilda. Yeah, sorry. Annika?
Maybe it's thanks to Jesus's mom that we have one practical miracle. I mean, because maybe it wouldn't have happened if it's on her account. So if she wouldn't have said they have no wine, maybe we would just have. Yeah, I think it's interesting because maybe
they would have gotten a sermon if she wouldn't tell him there is no wine. What they would have gotten is a sermon.
He might have preached a sermon at the wedding in order to make people happy, and so we have wine.
And his mother saved him from that.
Maybe she was just thirsty. So.
Okay, Hilda.
Well, first of all, to Annika, it doesn't say that he made them drunk. They were probably drunk before. That's what the head waiter is saying, or the host, or whatever he is. He says usually people drink the good wine to get drunk, and then they get the cheap wine when they're already drunk, which means they're already drunk because they already had a lot of cheap wine. They're already drunk. He doesn't give them good time. That's for one thing. I'm not even sure that most of the people know what they were drinking. It's only the head person who knows what he was drinking. He knows that it was excellent wine. And even if I go along with what Tuvia was saying and what we were accepting here, that nobody knows exactly about the miracle, I think that the servants do, but that it's immaterial for what I'm trying to say here. What is important, and I think that's what the story is about, and that's why there is no sermon, is the presence. And especially if we go by the Christian sense that this is the presence of God, the presence of God should be enough. I mean, God does not need to speak or do anything, especially if you call him the Word, in order to be. It's just to be. He is. Period. There is no need to speak. If he speaks, it demeans of his status. So I wouldn't. In this sense, I go the opposite from Rolly. It's not the lowest kind of appearance. It's the highest kind of appearance. This is where he is. Then he has to do things. Then he has to speak things. Apparently, people didn't notice it otherwise. But this is the to be. This is the presence. He doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't say, let the water be wine. He doesn't say, you should drink wine. He doesn't say that. He is the furthest from a trickster that he can be. He doesn't say, he just says, fill the jugs and draw water. He doesn't say, I'm doing a miracle here, or please take notice, I'm doing something. Take notes, I'm doing something, so that you can speak about it later. He doesn't say that. He just is.
That's a great interpretation, Hilda. But I really have a problem with. No, it's okay. So he is there. That's the real presence of Jesus, and in this real presence, we have the fullness, we have the wine, we have the party, we have the wedding, whatever, and people don't even realize. That's fantastic. But why do we have this strange comment at the end telling that this is a sign? So for whom is it a sign? When a sign is something you should understand. A sign makes no sense if no one understands a sign, right?
But is he saying it, or is John saying it?
No, it's John. It's the gospel saying it.
So he is not saying anything, which goes perfectly with my interpretation. He just is. There was another thing that I thought, this is the Jewish saying, so I'm not sure, but maybe it's from about the same time, so it might be relevant. But there is this saying that there are three partners in a human being. There's his father, his mother, and God. So you were saying, what's with the wedding here? Why is it at the wedding? A wedding brings one into a father and a mother, and in this case, there's another partner as well. So in every sense, any way I take it, it's just the presence. And that goes very well with Rav Shabtai's reading, that it doesn't have to be real wine. It doesn't matter if it's real wine. That's not the point of it.
And would it mean that the disciples believe that they believe in this kind of presence, or what might belief mean in the end? Because the disciples somehow realize something.
Do they? Or is it just John as an afterthought, telling it after everything has already happened, and he thinks back and he thinks, okay, maybe that was the first time. Maybe that was the time that we should have noticed and we didn't, because the disciples don't say anything. Nobody says anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that are being said are very mundane and very uninteresting. The wine is great. Perfect. That's a great idea.
Okay, Axel, you wanted to add something?
I just wanted to say that the disciples are totally absent in the story. I mean, they appear in the beginning and they appear in the end. We don't know where they were during the whole story. So it's I would agree. It's more a meta level. They are representing the readers who know the whole story. So they are. So we can put all the pieces together while reading this story, and so we can start to believe, because we realize what happens here. This is a sign. We don't know yet what kind of sign, but something is happening here.
Okay, so somehow, Rav Shepter, with your interpretation, somehow you won our round today, right? we are now very much in line of your thought that at least, let's say, it's not important what happens here with the wine. It's not important. The ontological level is not really the important thing. Would we agree with that? Also, of course, Annika would not agree, because Annika is convinced that it's all about celebration.
If I may add one thing, and maybe it will help answer, I understand some of Annika's reservation. I take the license of Umberto Eco that you can go into the woods in any path as long as you don't cut the trees. So I wonder if I cut a tree here or not. Maybe it was a sign for Jesus himself. He feels empty, he cannot do anything. His mother tells him there is no wine. So he says, I can't. And then when all of a sudden it happens.
He's still going to weddings with his mother.
What?
He's still going to weddings with his mother. He is her plus one.
She's taking him to the wedding of the cousins. Yes, you have to go. You can't miss it. It's
he's wearing the bow tie.
It's Berta's wedding. You cannot miss it. Yes. Yeah. No, but what I mean is he's not. It's a sign for him to see who he is. So then you start at the bottom of the ladder to see how do you influence people? How do you touch people? Until now, we only spoke. But if I'm right in my reading, now it is how he converts people, how he changes people's attitude towards God, towards himself.
Actually, that's a great perspective. Jesus himself getting a sign by this story, because actually he does not do so very, very much. I like this very much. And it could be pretty much in the line of what the gospel then tells after story after story after story. That's interesting, yeah.
Timotheus is waiting for his turn.
Timotheus?
It's just what you said last, what was...
אתה יכול לדבר בעברית, תימותאוס, אם זה יותר נוח לך. Right?
I try in English. Maybe it's that Jesus himself, or maybe we can read it this way. Jesus himself is surprised. So his first reaction was, so if there's no wine, also you can take water. And in the end, he's surprised that the water is wine. And it's not that it is necessary, had the intention that it became wine.
Very interesting.
So he just wanted to provide something to drink and might have been surprised himself what quality he can serve. Yeah. Scholt, actually, do you want to add something to what we said so far?
I've been thinking from the beginning that whatever we experience nowadays, social pressure or weddings, it's apparently a quite old thing. But I was actually much more on Annika's wavelength, that I could not help but to compare the story to the stories of Elisha. And in the cases of Elisha, it's very, very clear that he's much more down to, so to say, down to earth of the things that he's making more of, oil and bread. Here it's wine, and it's for a lavish party instead of a livelihood or feeding people. So I was actually, Annika, I hope you agree with. I agree with you in that it seems like it's a party. So that was my first thought, and agreed completely with Hilda regarding the tone of the voice. And what I still don't understand, why is this the starting point of his career? It seems to be that this is not the right point to if you are the guy and you want to go into an uncovered reality, that I couldn't find a worse situation to begin with, to reveal of who you are. It's and again, not no just it's like the biggest prophet would reveal himself in a discotheque. It doesn't fit the narrative, and I still don't have an answer, but I think maybe this is exactly the message of the thing, that the beginning of the carrier should be in a place where people attend. And where are people? They're not in the synagogue, they're at parties.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But actually, it's this huge paradox, no, which struck readers for ages now. Exactly this, and maybe it's the paradox we can call incarnation, the whole paradox of the Word becoming flesh, which can be seen here. Annika, you have one more addition here.
No, I just I thought this really interesting. Can you verbalize why this is the worst point to start with? Like well, it's a party, but why is it so bad? Because there are because on one level there, like, everyone is at the wedding, and it's very like. But it would be interesting to know why is this a bad
It should be really an open miracle. I don't really understand of how open this miracle was. If it was really meant to be for all the crowd, then it should be some bigger revelation at the party. It's something that is very modest, and if it's modest, then the venue is not fitting. So if it's modest, then also the point should be important. At the same time, maybe you could say that as we see, Rav Rappaport for sure could tell you how often people are begging in Israel for money in order to make a wedding that is actually not even lavish. For my standards in Leipzig, it would be lavish, because what do you need for a wedding? You put up a chuppah and you buy a bottle of wine. But in truth,
it's not the first bottle, it's the extra bottles when you are already drunk.
I don't even need an extra bottle. I'm fine with grape juice myself. But the point is that maybe it's in one way you could read it, it's a beautiful thing. He acknowledges the need of a social pressure, because in the social pressure situation like this with the wine, it's a luxury, but you have to acknowledge that this is actually people's need, and don't talk them off that you should be focusing on the real thing. No, he's actually helping them out. And this is a sign that he cares of their needs, even if he does not necessarily share their values. So that's why I'm thinking that it's a very complex, as you all showed how very it needs drasha. It really needs to be explained and maybe fill up the gaps. Whose wedding was it? Why don't we have any further information? Was it a lavish one? Was it not a lavish one? This is really begging for information be'alpeh next to the text.
That would be a wonderful text, really open for midrash in many directions. Yeah, just one background information you might all know, but to transform water into wine was actually not so special in antiquity. Dionysos could do this very well. The god of wine and of fertility in Greek culture. So actually, that was not the point, because others could do that as well. And
exactly.
If Jesus just wanted to show I'm the better Dionysos, that would be nothing. So I'm back actually at Rav Shabtai's point from the very beginning. Rav Shabtai, you raised your hand, right?
Yes. I think when I thought about what Rav Joel said and other people said, that we should read another Elisha story that unfortunately we didn't have it in Esamim, and we should really have it. Elisha's story, it's in Kings 2, chapter 4, verse 38, and he comes to the Gilgal, which is his base point near the Jordan, and there was hunger, and new prophets were sitting there, and it was hunger, they had nothing to eat. So he tells his kid, put water in the big pot and cook something for the prophets. So cook something, it's water. So one guy goes to the field and he wants to pick up some herbs, and he finds some poisonous ivy, and he doesn't know what a terrible thing it is, and he cuts it into the pot. And so the people started eating, and when they eat, they get terrible bellyache, and they scream and say, there is death in the pot, a man of God. And they could not eat. So they say, take some flour and throw into the pot and eat, and it's not dangerous. So now I want to speak about some point of reality, of ancient reality. Wine was never drunk straight at that time. It was bad taste to drink wine straight. You drank wine, Jews at least, they drank wine, quarter wine, 3/4 water. And the reason was to drink. It was not drinking to get drunk. Wine was extremely sweet, and they believed in the old times. I have proofs for that. Everyone, it is known that they didn't know anything about alcohol. They thought that the sugar is the element that makes you drunk. Alcohol was not known. The substance, it was known in Egypt. They used to distill the alcohol, but it's not mentioned any place in the ancient sources in Israel that the sugar is mentioned. They say that you can get drunk of eating a very rich, very sweet fig. It's like drinking wine. And so you drank a little bit, like you put some concentrated sweet thing in a cup and you top it with water and you drink it. And it was extremely unsafe to drink water. Water was really, really not safe in Israel. By King Adriana he conquered Judea long time, about the time of Jesus. So we have a tradition that he invented the first instant wine. People are not allowed. It was an offense in the Roman army to drink water because you could kill yourself with the water. You could get dysentery from the water. So he gave people pellets of dried wine that you should put in the cup and make it safe to drink. And so maybe it's not a story of dancing and all this. Of course, if you drink enough, you'll start dancing. But the wine is something that you drink. You drink as a soft drink at the table, and the water is unsafe. When he tells them bring water, so water is very good for washing. That's why it's mentioned. It's excellent for washing. It's terrible for drinking. And when he converts the water into wine in the Jewish tradition, he makes, not in the Greek, the Nicene and pleasure, but in the Jewish tradition, he simply makes a safe drink to drink. It's a good and tasty and wholesome something to drink instead of something deadly. That's the remark of realia.
Thank you so much. But again, it's of course a high quality safe drink, let's say.
Sweeter, it means that it's sweeter. Usually the quality of wine was measured according to its sweetness. My great friend, what's his name, Zohar Amar, the head of Eretz Israel studies in Bar Ilan, he calls the use of dry wines as the French Revolution. That was a revolution, a French Revolution against the tradition of Israeli grapes.
Yeah.
The quality was equal to the percentage of glucose you have in the wine. So it has to be very sweet, very pleasant. It's very sweet, so it's pleasant to drink.
Thank you. So, my dear friends, I think we are almost 90 minutes gone. I think it's a story we will never finish, but we have some very, very nice perspectives on it. If I may, let me add just 3 more, and then I open the round for a last time. Just 3 more. I don't want to bring in too much exegesis, but let me just mention 3 aspects I discovered in the last month or weeks. Irenaeus in the 2nd century, reading the story, asked the question, wow, that was a huge amount, because really the measure mentioned here might be around 600 to 700 liters. And he asked the question, could people really finish all that wine? And his very homiletical answer was, no, of course they could not. And we are still drinking this wine. So that's a very, very nice homiletical answer, I think. Another very nice interpretation I found was the question you did not ask, why exactly 6 jars? Why 6? That's very strange number. 6 is not 7, which could be a good number, but it's just 6. And one of the interpretations in the old church was because Jesus himself is the 7th. And that's also a very nice interpretation, actually very much fitting maybe to what we were talking about, presence and Jesus's presence and what that means. And the third thing I want to mention,
it's really beautiful what you mentioned. It's really, it is so Jewish, the idea. It's amazing.
Yeah, but the last one is not very Jewish. Now we turn to the Middle Ages. And we have the story of a very ascetic monk who promised never to drink any alcohol. And that was his big promise to God. And he was invited to a wedding. And they begged him, now please drink, it's just wedding, it's celebration. And even Jesus drank and so on. But he prayed to God, and God transformed wine into water, and so he could drink the real water. So that's maybe a nice sign of the transformation of the story through the centuries. Okay, but I didn't want to say that no one else might say something. If there are different ways of seeing it or one thing you want to mention for short remarks, we might still have some time. Hilda?
Well, the one thing I wanted to say that if I go along with the way I tried to read the story in the earlier, then that in a way can explain why he calls his mother woman, because then she is just a woman to him. If it's the presence that is here appearing for the first time, then her being his mother has no meaning whatsoever. It's
very sad.
Wow.
And you know that Jesus' mother is never called Mary in the Gospel of John, and is mentioned just one more time at the very end, standing before the cross and seeing Jesus at the cross. And then he turns to her again and establishes kind of a new family. John and the mother, you are now the family. That's quite amazing. She just appears 2 times, here and under the cross. Yeah.
But here she's just a woman.
Yeah. Tuvia, you wanted to add something as well?
I didn't. I just, again, I wanted to stress the point that Annika already made, and maybe Hilda. There is only one woman here in the story, and she's the one that realizes that something material is missing, or there is a basic need that nobody else is aware of, and she's the only person aware of that there is no wine. And then that's one thing, and I think it has to have a message, because to tell a story like that, because it seems like his first revelation is really in a low point, because these are people who already drank wine. It's an additional portion of wine. It's not like Elisha that people are in hunger and he brings in something, basic supply or basic need. It's something that is kind of an extra drink to have, and to put the first revelation of Jesus just at this point, it has to have some meaning. I don't know exactly what, but that's where I am.
But it's great to have open questions at the end of a reading session, right, Tuvia?
That's always the best way, you know.
But thank you so much. I really enjoyed again reading a text in this group. I think it was a good idea that I did not do this reading before I had to preach on this text, because after our reading, it's always more open and more complex, but also more beautiful, of course. So thank you so much for all this. Rav Shabtai, when should we meet again, and what should we do next?
May I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
Are we studying him now because his day is the 27th of or am I getting it wrong?
What?
What was the question?
Okay, never mind.
You mean 27th of January is the Remembrance Day?
No, it's not January. It's not January. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, Rav Shabtai, what do you think? What should we read? Or
Abdullah said that he's ready in February on Tuesdays, right? Tuesday or Wednesday? Wednesday is better for him. Wednesday. So I think now it's what's the date today? 26. 26. So why not in 4 weeks? What is the date in 4 weeks? Wednesday? Wednesday in 4 weeks? It's still February.
24.
24th, yeah.
24.
Okay.
Would be okay for me.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the text goes, we have very good stories, many, many, many excellent stories.
But the one thing we didn't do yet is read with Abdullah an Old Testament text, right? We only tried Quran and New Testament, but we didn't do an Old Testament reading.
But he wasn't with us on the New Text.
No, he will listen. He was not with us with the Quran, not with us on the Old Testament.
So maybe another New Testament for Abdullah.
I think maybe one of the King Solomon stories.
So we could also ask Abdullah what he really wants to do, because he could jump into something and ask him and let him decide. I think your suggestion is good, to read a kind of a more solid Old Testament text again would be nice for us all. Not this kind of destabilizing stories without any direction. Yeah, okay, so we have a date and hope that Abdullah can make it then. And Rolly, let me use the chance and ask you again, could you maybe arrange with Katya a meeting for the last week of July and have some cancellation policy until June or something like that?
Why don't we sit with her, the three of us, in Zoom?
How about we set it up with her on Zoom?
Okay.
Or you are afraid of her?
Never.
I'm afraid of her.
Hilda, Laila Tov, and to all of you who don't want to plan anymore, Laila Tov to all of you.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. And in any case, we should work on a list of people that want to participate. This is even more important than the venue.
So yeah. I think we could meet with Katya and arrange a meeting together via Zoom and ask her what she thinks. No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
It is truly the end times when Alexander suggests the Zoom. Okay.
No, but Rolly, if Rav Shabtai is a converted practical theologian, then I am a converted Zoom user now.
Yeah, but that seemed a longer shot. But yeah.
He even celebrates services on Zoom now.
Oh, you do services on Zoom?
I even do services on Zoom.
Wow.
I might even celebrate Eucharist on Zoom. So we are really, things really changed a lot, Rolly.
Wow.
Yeah. And maybe Rav Shabtai has a big influence on me. He always tells me that life is movement and Abraham and so on. And now I'm starting to do that, really.
And you're redefining presence, don't you?
I'm redefining presence, right? I believe that there is a digital presence, of course, and that you also have a body in the digital sphere. So I would not connect body only to analog, but also to digital. So really, I changed a lot, Rolly. You won't believe that.
Okay, very good.
No, it's really fantastic that we can meet, cheaply, and we can sit together from all over the world. It's a real advantage. It's something.
Okay,
And
very nice seeing you all. Bye-bye.
You should know that in the beginning, Rav Shabta really tried to bribe me to give me Bamba,
Yeah, right. We had
Bamba
plans.
thing.
We had plans to lure you into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks to Corona.
No,
so you did get your Bamba.
It's really my Bamba supply is a bit of a problem in these days, Rav Shabtai.
I'll see what I can do about it.
Okay, so I will send you an email, Rav Shabtai and Katya and Rolly, and maybe we find and Axel as well, and maybe we find a date for an organizational meeting. Kerstin, bye-bye.
So in the meantime, I'll send an invitation for Wednesday, the 24th. Okay. Thank you.
So, Laila Tov to all of you.
Laila Tov.
Rav Shabtai, you already finished your second vaccination, or?
Yes, last week. So the day after tomorrow, I'm a free person.
That's fantastic.
But Rivka insists that we should take serological test to make sure that we have antibodies. But okay, we'll do that. It costs 160 shekels because the government has too many demands. They don't want to finance it. Okay. When are you going to get your vaccine?
2022? I don't know. No, we really don't know.
You don't have a list even?
No.
No, we have only people beyond 80 who are
beyond 80.
Beyond 80. So this is where we are. We got stuck in the very beginning. And we got almost every day we get some bad news that some vaccination rate will be reduced or another vaccination won't work properly. So, well.
But you cannot volunteer to be vaccinated?
No.
You cannot say, I want to be vaccinated no matter the risk?
You can say, but this doesn't change anything. I mean, you can say I volunteer, but nobody cares. So you have to stand in line.
That's it, yeah. And there are millions of people before us, but we can only hope. So maybe we get a chance. Okay, Rav Shabtai, next week, do you have any, or Axel, do you have any chance to meet?
Yes, sure.
Next week, only on Monday. So next week is a little bit difficult for me, but
And Rav Shabtai, Monday evening? Because
Monday, no. Monday, 9 o'clock Israeli time, 8 o'clock Leipzig time, I have a shiur that I have to give. So it is from your time, it's from 8 to 9:30.
Okay.
But before that, it's okay.
I mean, we could meet, I mean, we don't have any American
partners, no.
So we can meet earlier than 8 o'clock in the evening, don't we?
Sure.
Yes.
If you want to meet 6:30 your time.
6:30 would be okay for me. So should I suggest that to
Katya? Yes.
I do that, Rav Shabtai, and we'll see. Okay, so see you again, Laila.
It's always a pleasure, and really.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.